So let's get started. I'm here with Bryan Eagle, the CEO of Glanris. You know, Bryan, when I see what Glanris is doing, I'm very excited to have the opportunity to talk with you today. So with that, why don't you give us a little bit of a background on the company, on Glanris?
Sure. So we're a startup. We got our initial funding late in 2019 and began the process of taking this technology from the lab. And the background on that was that this use of what we're doing here with biochar and rice hulls came out of a local university where a professor was trying to figure out the answer to the question, what can we do with all this ag waste that we generate across the river in Arkansas? Well, it turns out that Arkansas is the #1 producer of rice in the United States, and that rice has some very interesting properties when it comes to biochar that make it attractive as a water filtration media. The sort of initial thing that's interesting about it is that it's very energy efficient to produce. When you compare the production of this to coconut shell pyrolization, coconut shells, first of all, you got to grind them, then you got to cook them at 1,000 degrees C for 12 plus hours. Our media, these rice hulls, you can pyrolyze in about 8 minutes at a 400 degrees C kiln. So much more energy efficient to produce. Secondarily, rice hulls have some very interesting properties because they're high in silica. And we actually build some of our adsorbency and other metal removing capability on that silica structure. So to sum all that up, what makes it interesting is ours is a hybrid media, which has the ability to remove organics the way activated carbon does, but we can also remove dissolved metals in a very low cost media that again is very green, very energy efficient to produce. So that's kind of how we got started, or what the background is, and how we got started is we're a venture-backed startup trying to take this technology and bring it out into the world. Just as we were getting ready to.
What motivates you as as CEO of the company? What are your motivating factors? What motivates you?
Well, I think the thing that was interesting to me about Glanris was that it's I think potentially a very powerful change agent here. I think we're going to have to look for more sustainable filtration media like the type that Glanris can offer, particularly for metals removal, because what you have today with ion exchange resin beads and and RO membranes and other microfiltration, they're either ion exchange resin beads, which are a petroleum-based microplastic product. It's not very good for our environment long term to have that around. So I think we need to be looking for more sustainable ways to pull metals out. But what we're really doing is we're taking an ag waste product, rice hulls, #1 ag waste product produced in the world, 220 billion pounds of this stuff produced every year. And instead of burning it in the fields, which creates gigatons of greenhouse gases, or letting it rot in the field, which also produces greenhouse gases, we're taking it and pyrolyzing it, turning that into a stable carbon. So that removes that carbon from the normal carbon cycle. So after that after our filtration media has been used and it goes to the landfill, we're now sequestering carbon.
So who is give us an idea who your customer is. And then once you do that, give us some example of the impact that it's had with one of your customers.
Sure. So, we, like a lot of filtration media, we're applicable in all three areas: the industrial, the municipal, and the residential. Our initial focus has been on the industrial market, because anybody that paints or plates or uses metal anywhere in their production technologies and needs to filter the water used in that process before it can either be discharged or hopefully in the future reused for that application, is a potential target for us. We've got a couple of customers that I think are interesting. One that I think is very interesting is a company called Modine. Modine is a major manufacturer of HVAC systems, and the application is interesting because what they do is they make these compressor coils, and then to test the coil before they ship it, they pressurize one end and plug another end of the coil, and they take it and dump it in these large swimming pool sized tanks. And if bubbles come out, they've got a leak, and they identify, visually where that leak is and pull it out, solder up that leak, and then keep repeating that until they don't see any bubbles. And their problem was that they needed to keep those tanks clean because those tanks filled with water, the copper will leach into it. The flux on the solder's got lots of oils in it. So you get, scum on the top of the ponds. You get a lot of cloudiness in the water. And they were trying a number of other technologies that were very expensive and slow, and not having good success. What we gave them was simple, single pass through our media system in conjunction with the local services company that set this up for us. And they were able to filter that. And I think the thing that was most interesting about that filtration process for them is that the oils and solvents that were in the water didn't foul our media the way it had with other filtration media. And so, now this thing is just operating, constantly. The water in the tanks are clean. There's not a lot of, there's not a big issue there. And in the past, what they'd had to do when the systems didn't work is they'd have to drain the entire tank, scrub the walls, clean everything out, fill it back up. That took them, typically they were doing this on the weekend. So somebody had to come in the weekend and do all that. Took them down for 2 days while they were doing this. And it's very cost and people intensive to do that, not to mention the fact that they were using a lot of water in that process that they could, if they just treated it, could simply reuse. And it's applications like that we like because not only were we able to solve their problem, but now they're able to reuse that water and not have to continually pump new water out.
So you've got industrial applications, and in the future, you're going to have point of use applications,
et cetera. And since we're 100% manufactured here in the United States, grown in the United States, harvested in the United States, processed in the United States, and shipped from the United States, people that are looking for solutions, here in the States, that's pretty attractive for them because it addresses major supply chain issues that I think COVID has brought out for some of these other either carbons or additives which are coming in from outside of the United States.
Okay. So you're establishing a relationship with Global Waterworks. There's plenty of organizations out there to do that with. Why Global Waterworks?
Well, not to butter you and Mary up, but I love the people. I mean, I've met some pretty interesting people through that. Frank Bergano, our chief science officer, is very active there. The events that you guys host are very relevant to what we're doing, and I think your sensibilities around water reuse and some of these green technologies and embracing and supporting them obviously is right up our alley and in line with our branding positioning. So, I love the platform. We've made some great connections through that and look forward to continuing to work with you guys.
So back to Glanris, what are you looking like? What does it look like 12 to 18 months out, do you think?
Well, I think in that time frame, you'll see us, as I mentioned before, really working with some of these point of use and point of entry systems. You'll see a lot more dialogue around green or greener systems, at use in those applications. And I think you'll see us starting to expand. We talked about the supply chain issues. Well, those are all local. I mean, US companies have supply chain issues for anything outside of the US. The EU companies have supply chain issues for things outside of the EU. India, same issue, et cetera. So what we're really looking at is how can we establish manufacturing facilities and in partnership with other people in each one of those locations. The beauty of rice hulls as a media is that rice is grown locally. It's grown in the EU, grown certainly to a great extent in India, the Philippines, Kenya, Egypt. I mean, it's grown all over the world. And anywhere they grow rice, they have a problem of rice hulls because that's a waste product. It's 20% of the harvest, and they're looking for solutions that don't involve burning it, I think, for this media. And I think that's where we can burn it.
Yeah. Well, Bryan, as I said at the beginning, we are very excited at Global Waterworks about working with Glanris and all the things that you're doing and looking at your progress and certainly supporting you and your company in any way we can. Bryan, thank you so much for this time. Look forward to talking with you in the future.
Thanks, Frank. I appreciate it very much.
Take care.
All right, bye now.